You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for a new set of downs on Sunday.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. We'll apologize in advance. We may have some technical issues during this. We hope to avoid those. We had some problems with the recording setup and everything, but it looks like we're on track now. We hope to keep it that way. I'm Derek. There's Toby and Josh, and we're going to get started with the AAF. Basically, we saw a couple of days ago, the AAF has officially shut down its operations, now allowing its players to sign with NFL clubs, as about 4 of its AAF players have already done so. And the big question now, and Toby, we'll start with you, is will the AAF ever bounce back and ever be able to be successful?
Well, from the reports that I've been hearing over, pretty much yesterday since it's been announced, I don't think that the AAF will bounce back with all the that they are in. When you're hearing that players actually got thrown out of their hotel rooms when they came back from a game and found their luggage in the lobby and had nowhere to stay over the night because the AAF couldn't pay the bills for the hotel anymore. I mean, that's already a pretty tough hit for a huge league like the AAF was made up to be, with all the media presence and TV deals with CBS, NFL Network, and all the other stations. So I believe if you're not even able to pay for hotel rooms for your players anymore, I don't see a way that you come back to where you can actually pay for TV deals and or stadiums anymore. So I think the AAF, as sad as it is to not have football in spring anymore, I don't think the AAF will ever come back.
Yeah. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, this happened before with the XFL and the I believe it was the United American Football.
The United States Football League with Trump.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's that one. You had the XFL with Vince McMahon, and now the AAF. I honestly think that the NFL is one of those most untouchable franchises that can have no competition at all. Because you know what the NFL has that the other teams don't? Star power.
Yeah.
Because you instantly know almost all the good players in the NFL. But when it comes to the AAF, they were just too new. And I think that they tried to get it with Johnny Manziel and Kaepernick, but they just couldn't get through with Kaepernick. I think they got through with Johnny Manziel, right?
Yeah. He played one game, which he actually left injured.
Yeah. So, like you said, Toby, when it came to the hotel, it's a bad sign when you get done with a hard football game to see all your stuff in the middle of the lobby where anybody can just grab it, you know? And I just think it needed another few years to brew. They just kind of started it way too early.
Well,
that's what I think.
Actually, Josh, I don't think they started too early. It's just they didn't have that period where they developed. They just jumped right in, had that big draft, those huge TV deals, huge stadiums for, I don't know, I think they had even stadiums that were bigger than StubHub Center for the LA Chargers. And yeah, there were, if you're watching the games, there were barely people in there. I don't think there were games that had over 10,000 viewers in the stadium, actually. So
yeah,
it just started a little smaller, develop over time, over 3 years, 4 years. Let the people know the teams and get into the groove of the AAF. Get your name established in the public, and then you can go on and have that big TV deal, those bigger stadiums, but just keep it smaller for a couple of years. Try out some stuff and have that developmental period in there, and not just go, okay, we're here 0 to 60 from, in a blink of an eye. That's basically what the AAF did.
I think that the NFL should have bought the AAF and just kind of made it like the minor leagues for them.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Well,
Like,
yeah, and that was what I was just about to jump into, is that a lot of people I've seen on Twitter talk about how the NFL should adopted the AAF like the NBA does for the G League. Problem is the NBA endorses the G League. The G League does not sit there and say we're trying to be better than the NBA with these less than talented guys. These are just guys that we're trying to bring back up through the system, and hopefully they can make it onto an NBA roster someday, represent the team that they're going for, and make an impact. The problem is the AAF was strictly designed to try to make the NFL look bad. It was implemented to go on the insecurities of the NFL. Different replay, better hitting, all these likable things that the NFL wants to go to, but prefers the safety aspect than other things. But yeah, what you got, Josh?
I don't know how many of our viewers are fans of wrestling, but you know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
WWE and WCW back in the day. But this is like the late 2000s WCW, the one where they're starting to fade, because they went into direct competition with WWE, in this case it's the NFL, and they just took all their old players, that just had nothing going for them. They were out of their prime, or they just couldn't make the cut, and that's what happened. You just
ultimately it just wasn't going to work out because they have the lower end of the market players playing in giant stadiums that aren't filled. It's an economic and operational disaster on all ends. They didn't have enough money to go through with all of it. It's just one of those things that, if the AAF would have sat back and said that, they want to help the NFL by showing, hey, we got some of these other guys here that have either been through your league before or just coming out of college and have nowhere else to go, and they want to show their ability, come right over. And then the NFL can, say, hey, okay, we'll endorse you to show us what you got. Let's see some of these players in action. But the thing is when you have another league trying to impact a much bigger league or trying to oppose it, most of the time just won't work. And I know that a lot of us prefer to like watching the AAF sometimes because of its ability to watch more of a football game rather than look like you're watching a love fest. But at the end of the day, the NFL is the bigger market. It's the more likable market, and that's why it would reign superior.
I mean, to our point that we all three said that the AAF kind of went in as a competitor to the NFL. I mean, they started out as saying, okay, we don't want to actually compete with the NFL. We just want to be that league where the college player that doesn't get a chance, that injured player that didn't sign with another team, to get another chance to get looked at by the teams. But then all of a sudden they implemented all those rules that fans were basically bitching about the NFL, with hitting a quarterback and the replay, like we said before. And now all of a sudden the AAF developed in a competitor with the NFL. I think actually, like we said, they have to cooperate with the NFL in a way and kind of play on the same basis with the NFL rules, but maybe try out some new rules that the NFL might want to incorporate in the next couple of years. Like, I don't know, like, they usually try it in the preseason or in the Pro Bowl when they have a new rule, like with the field goal or the extra point field goal being a little bit further back a couple of years ago. They tried that in preseason and adopted it. Why not? Why not do that in the AAF? Why not make up a league in spring? Have those guys that didn't get a chance in the NFL or might want a second chance in the NFL, and try some new rules that you're talking about there. Not just put them in preseason football where nobody cares about the game really, where the third string defense plays against the fourth string offense that nobody has ever heard about, the name that is on the field right now, and just put it in an actual game with players that care about the game and try out some new rules. And if they like,
Yeah.
just put them in action in the actual NFL.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And well, actually, before we move on, because I know we want to, I just think that it would have been wise for the NFL to buy the AAF, make it their minor league, and have the draft. Then whoever's left in the draft, you can have the AAF draft. That way everybody can still at least get in.
Yeah, but I think that ultimately that was not what the AAF was designed to try and implement. Even if they did, they were taking away everything that they wanted to do, because the NFL would have had all the power to do whatever they wanted with that league, and that wasn't what the AAF wanted. And ultimately, that's why they won't bounce back.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the Packers, more specifically Aaron Rodgers versus Mike McCarthy, where several different reports have come out over the past week stating the very toxic relationship that McCarthy had with the players, specifically with Aaron Rodgers. Ryan Grant, a former player of the Packers, said how Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers absolutely despised each other every day since they wanted him. Even stated that McCarthy said even to the players and to Aaron Rodgers that Alex Smith was a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers at one point. And other sources coming out saying that McCarthy was always late to team meetings, would rather get massages than hang out with the team, all of these other things. And there's also been documents stating how Aaron Rodgers is not as great of a leader as some people have proclaimed him to be. Josh, we'll start with you, and I have two questions. One, what does this say about the Packers for letting this go on for so long? And what does this say about the character of Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers?
So for your first part about the Packers, I think that they were fine with it for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it just started to go downhill, because you can clearly see on the field with the Packers that they were boring. Their offense, everything about the Packers on that field was boring. And it looked like Mike McCarthy could give two craps, just not even wanting to try. And I think that finally that he's gone, that there's breathing room. But when Mike McCarthy gave that interview, to, I'm trying to remember who it was. But anyway, he started this whole thing against him. Like the Packers, they were just going to hold it in, they weren't going to tell anybody. But to say that your franchise quarterback, the guy that took you to a Super Bowl, now, granted, it wasn't just Aaron Rodgers, it was also the defense, but they still made it there at like 10-6 to the Super Bowl. So something was up. And to your second part, this just shows you more of the character of the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. It's a mixture of both. I'll just leave it at that, because Mike McCarthy looked like he didn't want to be on the field, and Aaron Rodgers was getting frustrated because he wasn't getting any help at all, because they always traded that first pick in the draft for something else. Like a couple of years ago, remember? Like every time it looked like they had a good first round pick, what do? They trade back and get some other guy, which I think that finally got fed up with Aaron Rodgers. And to know that he was the guy that passed up on him in San Francisco, I think that also holds a little bit of venom to it too. Because, he wanted to play for the Niners. He was told he was going first overall. And Mike McCarthy said, no, I like Alex Smith. And then to find out that you're going to be coached by the guy who said that, yeah, there was definitely going to be some animosity. But either way, it just shows you how much Mike McCarthy just despised the Packers in the end.
Obi, what you got?
First off, to the point that Josh made at the end there with the the 05 draft when Rodgers came into the league. I'm not actually that sure if Mike McCarthy had that much of a say in if the 49ers should make him the first overall pick. I mean, he was only the offensive coordinator. There are a lot of other guys in front of him to make that decision who to draft. in with the first overall pick for the 49ers. I mean, they have a GM, they have a head coach as well, so I wouldn't put that all on McCarthy, and I think that is what Rodgers actually did in 2006 when McCarthy came to the Packers. And I mean, it was actually stated in the Bleacher Report article that got that boulder rolling in recent days that McCarthy was expressing that openly in the locker room after he came to Green Bay, that he still thinks that Alex Smith is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers and would pick him ahead of Aaron Rodgers again. And I think that has a lot to do with how the relationship between him and Rodgers paid out in Green Bay, since McCarthy is not there anymore and Flores is now the new head coach. But on the other hand, a lot of people are now beating up McCarthy over what he did, and Josh already said it. There have been reports that he was actually late for team meetings and he doesn't want to be around the team. And I mean, we have seen him on the sidelines, and we have talked about it for probably since the first episode of this podcast half a year ago. We have talked about Mike McCarthy and put him in the same pot as Hugh Jackson and Marvin Lewis, which I think we all three of us can agree on. That's about the three head coaches that did the least for their team in the NFL over the last couple of years. But on the other side of the medal, there is still the side of Aaron Rodgers, who isn't that innocent as well. I mean, he always expressed about McCarthy that he's probably the coach with the least football IQ that he ever had, including his coaches in middle school, high school, and so on. And he's a head coach in the NFL. So it's not all on McCarthy. And Aaron Rodgers, he was changing plays like he wanted to in games. He was overruling McCarthy. He was kind of, I'd call it the dictator of the offense. It wasn't a democracy how it should be in a team in the NFL, but Aaron Rodgers was that leader. If you don't do it how I want to do it, well, I'm just doing it my way. And as a quarterback, he can do that on the field. And he was not taking McCarthy seriously. And as a quarterback, I mean, how can you even play 13 years with the same head coach if there is such a feud between them? And that was actually your first question, Derek. I think there was something going wrong with the entire Packers organization there. I mean, if you're seeing that there is essentially a fight with the two biggest leaders in your locker room, how can you keep them together for 13 years? That's not going to work. How they even came up with one Super Bowl ring out of that and 8 straight playoff appearances. That what could they have done if McCarthy and Rodgers actually had a good relationship? Sky's the limit for them.
Just remember though, there was another guy in that locker room for like about a couple of years, and that guy was number 4, Brett Favre. So I think that
that's true. Yeah.
I think he played a little bit of a role in that too, but not to the extent of like, I'm going to stop this, but more of like, well, I'm here. You just focus on me and not him.
Right.
And once he left, then all focus was on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
and then
that wasn't really that long before Favre went to the Vikings.
If this is true, that like this has been going on for that many years, there's a problem in the organization for understanding situations and character. It's either they truly didn't know over the span of 10 years that these two practically hated each other, and they chose not to act on it. They just obviously did not spend a lot of time with their coaches and their players, or they just turned the blind eye because they were saying, oh, our team was succeeding anyway. We're not going to pick either side here because we feel like it's a moral dilemma if we decided to get rid of one or the other. Because ultimately, that's what should have been done long ago. the Packers should have recognized this right away and should have pointed the finger at both of them and figured out a way to make this right. If they couldn't have made it right, then they should have gotten rid of one of them. And one of them should have been gone a long time ago. It should have probably been McCarthy or Rodgers. I don't really know. It's up for you to decide. Could have been both of them. You never know. But at the end of the day, I think that I'm not going to disagree with anything that you guys said. It's true. McCarthy has sat on the sidelines a lot of time, not looked like he was interested, wasn't very engaged. And then you had Aaron Rodgers, who in a way is not a great leader. And again, we referenced this last week, Toby, the Herd, Colin Cowherd on the Herd.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about football. He's done a lot of great things for it. Today on his show, he talked about how these articles show what Aaron Rodgers doesn't have over Tom Brady. Tom Brady has leadership. And talent-wise, Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback out there with his ability to throw a football. But leadership, Tom Brady's got him beat. Because you look at the Belichick and Tom Brady issues, those two practically might hate each other. They might. We don't even know. But at the end of the day, they go out there, they do their business, they win football games, and that's why they've won so many Super Bowls together, because they simply put the business of winning football games over their relationship with each other. I don't think they've always loved each other, but ultimately they knew what was best for the team. They were just going to do what's best there. Yeah. But the problem is that those two wanted to do that, McCarthy and Rodgers, but the problem is one thought his way was better than the other, and the other thought the same way. So ultimately, that's what happened.
Yeah, sorry, Josh. I don't think it's gonna get any better with Flores up there right now, because Mike McCarthy was a defensive-orientated head coach, and now you got Flores up there, who is the former linebacker coach for the Patriots. So he again will be a defensive-orientated head coach up there. And in the Bleacher Report article that I quickly mentioned, there was a quote from Greg Jennings, a wide receiver from 2006 to 2012 for the Green Bay Packers. He said that Rodgers is an ultra-sensitive source of toxicity. And, I mean, if he doesn't agree with Flores as well, he's just going to ignore his calls again. Yep. And it's just going to result in the same thing as it did with McCarthy.
So then, Josh, I'll throw a question at you with Toby saying that. If that continues, if the Packers end up actually taking a better look at Rodgers, should the Packers think about getting rid of Aaron Rodgers like as soon as they can?
I think yes, and here's why. Because like you said, Toby, toxicity kills locker rooms. And if you're going to be like Aaron Rodgers and you're just going to be like this little prima donna who has never been told no in his entire life, everything's been handed to him. Yeah, you got to think about dealing him, because he's not what the Packers stand for. The Packers are that team where once you're a Packer, you're always a Packer. And I know I'm not like a Packers fan or anything like that, but you just got to look at their history to see that they are a team of leaders.
And Toby, we'll get one more question to Toby. Josh, I'll let you finish your thought real quick before.
And I think what this all comes back to is that even though Aaron Rodgers has surpassed Brett Favre that we see, I think he hasn't surpassed him himself. And that's what he's trying to do, because Brett Favre will always be the guy of Green Bay. No matter what Aaron Rodgers does, it will always be Brett Favre's team and Brett Favre this and Brett Favre that. And I think that shadow of Brett Favre is creating this toxic monster of Aaron Rodgers inside his head. I mean, we see him be great, but to him, he's probably thinking himself as mediocre because he can't get out of the shadow of number 4.
Yep. Toby, and then real quick question before we move.
Yeah.
Can we at least maybe put this into perspective that with McCarthy gone now and somebody else helping to call plays or letting Aaron Rodgers simply run the offense now that the Packers have acquired some free agents on defense? Because we've always said how Aaron Rodgers and his offense has always been very good, but his defense has been lackluster. With them trying to fix the defense now, is it possible now that maybe Aaron Rodgers will maybe reevaluate his leadership and start being a better role model and maybe having a better feel for his teammates now that the Packers organization's now finally giving him some talent on the defensive end?
I don't think Aaron Rodgers is gonna change with how the Packers are restructuring right now, because I think it's just his natural to act that way. He is that oversensitive guy that just do it my way or the highway, basically.
Yeah. Remember, he disowned his parents.
Yeah, that's
True.
that's just Aaron Rodgers, but I feel like, yeah, they are revamping their defense right now, but it's costing them a lot on offense. And I think that's what Aaron Rodgers will feel next season. I mean, they let Randall Cobb go this offseason.
True.
They let Jordy Nelson go last offseason. There is pretty much only Devontae Adams and Valdez Scantling, who came in as a pretty much unknown last year.
Mm-hmm.
So who is he actually going to throw to there? Of course, there's still Jimmy Graham there, but he didn't show up last season at all for the Packers, or not as much as he did for the Seahawks or the Saints. So
right.
I feel like he's going to not have a problem with the defense this year. He's going to have a problem that he's going to actually get the offense going this year.
True.
So
because we know he had some difficulties last year with that too.
And actually, one last comment on the question that you asked Josh, if they should deal Rodgers. I feel like with how the offense looks right now, it's the perfect timing to rebuild that offense. Let Rodgers go, get a young quarterback in there.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I think so too. You could deal him out. Almost any team right now that still needs a quarterback would love to throw any money they got at him and at your organization to help you, or draft picks to help you get offensive players that down the road a few years from now, when that defense is veteran and you have young offensive guys that are ready to go, then there you go. That could possibly be something to look at later on.
To the Raiders. All right.
Raiders. Out of John Gruden, I don't deny that. That could potentially.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. Now we're going to shift to another quarterback versus his team, and that is Wilson and the Seahawks. Well, ever since the Seattle Seahawks have lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl a couple years back, the Seattle Seahawks franchise has been in a disarray. They have not really looked the same. The Legion of Boom has been collectively brought out of Seattle and have dispersed to several different ways, with Earl Thomas going to Baltimore, Chancellor being retired, Richard Sherman to San Francisco, with Bob Wagner truly being the only part of the Legion of Boom still left there. And now there have been questions about the coaching in Seattle, if Pete Carroll's actually doing a good enough job anymore. And people are starting to question now and with Russell Wilson's contract being up soon, people are questioning whether or not what Wilson's role is in Seattle now. Toby, we'll start with you again. Is this now Russell Wilson's team to lead now that the Legion of Boom is now completely gone and Pete Carroll may be taking a step back?
Well, I don't think it's actually the way that the Seahawks operate to have that clear one leader. They have to get that team mentality back that they had when they went to 2 consecutive Super Bowls. So for me, it feels like actually Russell Wilson has to take a step back and get back to that being that team player, and them being able to rebuild that Legion of Boom that they had a couple of years ago, to get those defensive players in this year's draft back, or get some free agents back in there to revamp their defense. Because on offense, they are decent. Let's say it like that, how it is. They're not the best offense, and they never will be, and they never have been up there in Seattle. But they have to rebuild that defense. So I feel like that ultimatum that probably everybody has heard of right now, because it was pretty much one of the biggest news that came out from the NFL last week, that Russell Wilson wants a deal until April 15th, which is in 10 days now, and you haven't really heard that much about their talks for probably ever. So
Right.
I don't know if they can actually make a deal happen in the next 5 days, but like I said, I feel like Russell Wilson should not make the mistake that a lot of quarterbacks have made in the past. Like, Aaron Rodgers made it up in Green Bay. Drew Brees made it with the Saints. That he wants a lot of money and is costing the team the chance for a championship title. And come on, man, just take a little bit of a pay cut. Let's get the defense back up there and come back to being a team. That's it up there in Seattle. It's not that we need one leader, but we need one team. We need 53 guys on the roster that hold together. We need the coaches to be there and not be a toxic guy like with the Packers McCarthy was. And that's Pete Carroll for them. So I don't think Pete Carroll actually does a bad job up there. He does exactly what the Seahawks needs. And yeah, Russell Wilson, I hope he stays up there because he's a great fit for the Seahawks. And yeah, I feel like they just need to get back to that team mentality that they had, I don't know, what was it, 5 years ago?
Josh, what you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think this is now Russell Wilson's team because remember, it was always Legion of Boom followed by Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Now that the Legion of Boom is now no longer there, it is now Russell Wilson's turn to step up. And I think that you should pay him, but you shouldn't pay him that much so you can leave yourself some wiggle room. You know? Because you already know if he goes anywhere else, he's not going to have this much success outside of Seattle. So you know that his limits are with those that run the spread offense, and those are very little in the NFL, at least with starting quarterback needs.
Yes.
And so if you're the Seahawks, you at least know that. So you can still pay him, but not worry about him going to, if he does leave, go to like a top contender for you. Because those ones usually run pro-style offenses anyway, and they're more spread, run the ball first. So it is Russell Wilson's team, but the Seahawks shouldn't pay him too much. I think they should at least pay him about 85% more than what they are now.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, sorry, before you there. I can see your point, Josh, but I haven't seen Russell Wilson without a supporting cast on offense with that big player. When they were successful, he had Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. He needs that one star player in the offense as well. You have seen it. When there is no player around him that has that star potential, they are a good team, but they're not that huge playoff team that is a favorite for the Super Bowl. And that is why I'm saying Russell Wilson he's probably not that superstar leader type player. He needs at least one of those types of players in his offense to get the success that he had.
All right, so let's take a look at what we know of Russell Wilson. Let's talk about what he is as a player. He's very quiet, pretty much says the right things all the time. He's a leader by example. He doesn't really talk too much, which is exactly the kind of quarterback that you need. The Seattle Seahawks have not done him any favors in his tenure. Besides having Marshawn Lynch on that team, he has never had a consistent receiver threat. He's always had a decent collection of receivers in Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, but the problem is these guys continuously get hurt. He's left without a good, solid receiving core, and yet despite all this, has been one of the most efficient and most reliable quarterbacks in the entire NFL, even without a star player on his receiving core and without a good offensive line for the majority of his career. This last year, they were the number one rushing attack team in the league. That hasn't happened since they had Marshawn Lynch in his prime. And that was to say they didn't even do that well in pass protection either. The Seahawks need to do everything they can to make sure that this man stays happy because he's the one last hope they have left to keep them going to where they want to be. Now, I agree with you guys that, they shouldn't throw Matt Ryan money at him. No way in hell am I paying Russell Wilson that much, but they should keep him happy and make sure he gets paid and make sure that he knows this is your team to run. We're going to do our best to make sure that we can build a team around you to make sure that this team gets to where it wants to go. And I agree with both ends. They need offense and they need defense. Now, their defense last year was above average. It wasn't elite, but it was a good enough defense that at week in, week out, they were pretty consistent. And then, their offense, they ran the ball very well, which is what they need to continue to do, but they need to find a way to get another playmaking receiver to help Russell Wilson out, and they need to get better in pass protection. Because like I said, Russell Wilson, you can check the numbers, one of the most efficient guys in the league, and he's one of the best leaders for his group. But ultimately, you're right, he needs more help. He ultimately needs a little bit more help on both sides of the ball, and hopefully they can give that to him. But this is Russell Wilson's team now, and they need to make sure that he gets paid for it. I really hope he does. All right, so now we're going to move on to a topic that was brought up to us last night by our friend Seth, who watches our podcasts regularly. He mentioned the most underrated and overrated players in the mock draft this year, specifically in the higher rounds. I know I have a few players in mind, and I know you guys probably have a few players in mind as well. I will start this one just to give you guys a little bit of time to think of yours. I'm going to start with my most underrated players in the draft this year. So my first one is a guy that probably won't go first round, but I think he should be late first, early second, is Terry McLaurin, who a lot of people said before the season started, he was not going to be a top third round pick because of just not seeing anything that they've noticed. But when you saw what you saw his senior day, what you saw at the combine, what you saw at his pro day, all these things have proven to everyone that he is such an underrated player as a person and as an athlete. His mindset is awesome. He always says the right things, loves the game with a passion. And not to mention his numbers back him up. At his senior day, burnt every receiver that ever covered him. He was easily better than everyone else. He ran at 20 miles per hour at his pro day. He ran a 4.41 combine, or 4.36 actually, and that was the fifth fastest time of all receivers in the combine. What more do you want? And not to mention, he's a great special teams guy. I think a lot of people kind of throw that off to the side as, that's not important. I think that position is very important, and he's a guy that loves to get back on special teams. And another player I have is Ed Oliver. I had a lot higher hopes for Ed Oliver at the beginning of the season. I think a lot of people have kind of gone past his athletic ability because of his issues off the field and on the field, with his little temper tantrum he threw with his coach and some of the off the field anger issues that he has. But I think when you look at this kid's athletic ability, I'm sorry, but the stats speak for themselves. And I'm just surprised more and more people don't have him in their top 15 when it comes to defensive players in the draft right now. And another player I think for an underrated is Christian Wilkins. I have Christian Wilkins should be a top 15 pick in my opinion, but he's been overshadowed again by a lot of other Clemson defensive linemen and players like Montez Sweat and Rashawn Gary, who had better combine numbers than he did. But I think Christian Wilkins' stats and his character alone has attracted a lot of attention from a lot of people, and that's what's keeping him in the first round. And I think that ultimately that should be more favored than some of these other guys. Josh, who are some of your most underrated players?
All right, I'll keep this one, I guess, down to two.
Okay.
Underrated. All right. Let's see. First one would be DeAndre Baker.
Okay.
Because he's already getting outshined by Greedy Williams.
Mm-hmm.
But what he's a very good lockdown cornerback. He might not really be like the fastest one compared to people like Greedy, but that's what you want. You don't want speed. You want lockdown. And because Greedy Williams had like such a great college career, he's outshining DeAndre Baker. But DeAndre Baker, I guess you could say that I'm not a huge Georgia Bulldogs fan or anything like that, but what I saw on the field during like the bowl game and all that is that he will force you to the outside. He's not one that will chase you down unless he has to. He will make sure you are in front of him. Whereas Greedy Williams usually likes to let them slide by a little bit and just keep pace with them, And that's why I think DeAndre is a fairly underrated pick. The second one, Derek.
Oh man, I
You
think
right?
I know where this is going.
You think I know where I'm going with this one?
I think I know where you're going with this one.
You know where I'm going with this one?
Yes, and may I take a guess at it?
Go ahead.
Chase Winovich.
You're damn right.
Oh no! You know what? I'll give respect to Devin Bush and Rashawn Gary for, even though I hate Michigan with a passion, but those two guys are legit at what they do. I hate Chase Winovich, okay? I hate him. I hope that he never plays a down in the NFL. I hate him so much. But anyway, continue with your.
It's because he has heart, Derek. It comes from here. He is a leader. He was the heart and soul of that defense last year.
No.
All right, go ahead, Toby. Go ahead, Toby.
I gotta take that one. I gotta take a detour here. First off, for all the people that are not familiar with this podcast, Chase Winovich has a meme on our channel for way longer than he has been on Fox Sports or the NFL Network. So thanks to Josh's first mock draft that has been going on for a while.
You leave it as a placeholder because you forget Colin Farrell, and now it's a meme.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, to my two most underrated players in this draft, I have one on offense, and I think I've said it in Josh's last mock draft already, and for me, it's Mike Weber from Ohio State as the running back, because I feel like when I'm watching the Ohio State games from last season, there has been a lot of potential to Mike Weber, and I feel like he has actually been underused in the offense for the Buckeyes, and now he's already or just mocked at late second, early third, maybe not even second day running back, which for me is just ridiculous. And I'm not comparing playing styles here, but it could be another Alvin Kamara 2.0 here. I'm not saying he's going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he's going to be that late second round pick that is coming up next season in the NFL, who is going to put up numbers where everybody's just going to think, why didn't we draft him in the first round? He's actually putting up the numbers, and the team that is getting him late second, early third, where he's probably going to go, they're going to have a good time with that guy. And the second guy that I have for the defensive side for the most underrated player is Jalen Ferguson, defensive end from Louisiana Tech, who is actually the record holder in college football for the most career sacks, with 45 sacks in his entire career in college. And I don't see him anywhere in the mock drafts right now. I think the first mock draft that I actually seen him in the first round, after what he has shown in college, is actually the Pro Focus Football mock draft that was released 2 days ago. And our opinion of PFF is, well, you can see it from Derek's reaction there, is not very high, to say the least.
Fake sports news. Fake sports news,
yes.
But
I'm totally convinced that nobody that works with PFF actually understands or watches football. Wait, continue.
Why doesn't he show up on any other mock drafts? I think I've actually looked at 3-round mock drafts, and he didn't show up on there. He was one of the best defensive ends in college football. Yes, it's the smallest school. Louisiana Tech is not that big college name that gets a lot of national TV time, but he was just dominating. And
remember, oh, sorry, Toby,
yeah,
don't mean to cut you off.
Josh,
Remember, Remember, Jerry Rice came from Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets that.
And Corey Davis came from Western Michigan, was a wide receiver drafted by 10th round, the 5th pick 2 years ago. It's like that's a no-name school. All of a sudden, the receiver gets taken.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen worse things.
Yeah, we've seen worse things, but all of a sudden, Jalen Ferguson is not showing up in the first 3 rounds at some point in a mock draft. What? No,
he could be the next Darius Leonard, a no-name guy who becomes like the greatest player on our team.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yes, it's a fantastic defensive draft class, especially in the defensive line department. But he shouldn't be that far down.
Right.
All right, Derek.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, so now we're going to move on to our most overrated players.
That's going to be so easy.
To our number 2 here. Now, I got one that I think almost all of you will agree with me on, because we've kind of talked about it over the last couple weeks.
Wait, let me guess. First
one, yeah.
Chase Winovich.
No. I totally believe he is not saying it. Okay, I think this name will bring some light to your attention. DK Metcalf. I think that he's one of the most overrated players. Look, I get he's strong. I get he's big. I get he is fast. I understand that those are great components for a wide receiver. But the problem that I have is that you looked at his combine numbers and you looked at his pro day numbers. You guys know that and then he tested in the 97 to 98 percentile in speed and agility when going straight down the field, okay? Now, I'm going to read you a stat that I recognized from a couple weeks back. When he was doing his drills, his cone drills that tested his footwork and everything else, he tested in the 3 percentile when dealing with curl routes and hang routes. The problem that you have is that this is a guy that if he doesn't work on his footwork and he doesn't get better at it and much better at it faster, it's almost a point where you know what he's going to run. You know he's going deep because ultimately that's what he does, is that he's not good at turning his body. That's his issue.
Actually, Derek, his combine numbers in the shuttle drills and all that, they weren't good. But if you're looking at his pro days, workout that he had, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I think he improved his shuttle time by, I think it was 3 or 4/10 in his pro days. So he actually got a lot quicker there.
I just think that over time, that's something that's going to have to get fixed, because I think we've all just kind of fell in love with the fact that he's only 2% body fat and that he runs the fastest fastest 40 time. I think everybody's kind of overblown that kind of. And my second player that I think is one of the most overrated is, I think it's Clelin Ferrell. I think now, I know that everyone kind of has Clelin Ferrell being in the top 15 in most mock drafts. And I will mention it right away. I have him in the top 15 because simply I think that that's where I think he's going to end up going. I see some of these other players from Clemson and some of these other defensive linemen that are so much more equipped than he is. And I wasn't very impressed with his combine numbers. You know, he didn't really show me anything spectacular. I just think that was a name that was originally a top 5 in most people's mock drafts before we started doing this stuff. And now it's kind of backed off a little bit, but not a lot. I just think that's one that's kind of gotten overblown. Josh, 2 overrated players in your list.
Number 1, Kyler Murray.
Okay.
Easily Kyler Murray. Look, if you're and this has a little bit to do with the way the Cardinals, settle this stuff. They're not saying we're done with him, but we're not with Rosen. But he didn't run at all during the combine or the pro day. And he's supposed to be like we said in the past few podcasts, he's supposed to be like this mobile quarterback who was borderline untouchable, but he still refuses to run. I still think Dwayne Haskins is a better quarterback than him in so many different regards. And I think if he's going to get drafted first, it's only because the coach has some kind of love interest with him.
Right.
That's it. There's no talent. The coach just loves him. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
well,
it's just,
he's talented. Let's not get it twisted. But I think that you're right that the only reason he'd be drafted number one is because of Arizona's coach. If it wasn't Arizona's coach loving Kyler Murray, then I think we could all agree that they'd either keep Rosen or they would go with Dwayne Haskins rather than Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray would be in Haskins' spot, whether he be picked to the Giants, picked to the Broncos, picked to the Redskins, the Dolphins, later in the first round rather than being the first pick. I agree with you there. And then your second guy?
That second guy, man. You know, I actually had it just like I honestly think it's Greedy Williams.
Okay.
Who's could be because, like I told you beforehand, he's a guy who likes to keep pace with wide receivers. He doesn't really like to cover them. You know, you saw it in the Fiesta Bowl before he got. Oh, I know he didn't even play in the Fiesta Bowl, did he?
I don't remember if he played in that.
No,
or not. I don't remember.
I think he did, but in some of the LSU games, you could just tell that he likes to let the wide receiver off of the line of scrimmage, doesn't get up on him, sidesteps, and goes along with him like this. Now, if I'm a team, I want a cornerback that gets up in the wide receiver's face and pushes him into the outside, because you don't know how fast that wide receiver is, and he relies too heavily on the free safety when he gets back that way.
Yeah.
If the free safety's not there, it's one-on-one, and 9 times out of 10, the wide receiver is going to win that one. And I think that's why I think Greedy Williams is the second overrated.
All right, John or Toby, what you got?
Well, I again got one offensive guy and one defensive guy, and on offense, I totally gotta agree with Josh. Actually, my only note for overrated player offense is just Kyler Murray exclamation point. That's all. That's all I have. I mean, he should not be going first overall. That's for sure. And like Josh already said, he should not be even the first quarterback off the board in this draft. It definitely should be Dwayne Haskins, and I actually think it's close between him and Drew Lock for being the second guy off the board. And then again, Daniel Jones from Notre Dame, or Duke is not Notre Dame, is coming in that discussion in as well. So for me, Kyler Murray is more of a late first rounder, maybe if you need a quarterback, middle first rounder, early second rounder, but definitely not first overall. I disagree as well as Derek did with Josh that he doesn't have the talent. That's probably been bad wording by Josh there. But
yeah, it was bad wording. I didn't mean like horrible talent. I just mean bad talent for like the what he's going into, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think he just doesn't have the build for the NFL. He just doesn't have the frame that he needs to play in the NFL. That's the problem I have with Kyler Murray. And defensive guy, I gotta go with Montez Sweat. I think everybody right now has those combine goggles on there just because of that 40-yard dash time. Everybody, all of a sudden, he's jumping in the top 5 pick. And before the combine, everybody had him late first round pick.
I'm guilty of this one.
Yeah, me as well. I also have him in the top 5 picks because I think it's just how the teams view him right now. Because, like I said, combine goggles.
Yeah, because you look at those highlight things, and his arm is coming up like that, and it's about ready to like touch the ceiling of my place and come down on that player. Because you think, he's essentially a 6'6" guy running right at you like a Calvin Johnson type.
It's just one of those things where you don't see a guy that size run that fast, and when somebody does something like that, it gives you one vision. It gives you one-sided vision. It makes you think that warrants everything else that he's already done. So that's pretty much how that works. All right, so now we'll move on to our polls. We'll go to one that Toby and I did this last week, and we'll do one that Josh had 2 weeks ago but was not able to do last week because he had something else to do. We're going to actually start with Josh's poll from 2 weeks ago where he asked Was Joe Flacco a meme of a quarterback? Basically meaning, is he done for? Is he really worth it? Is he actually funny or good at all? And with the votes that we got, 80% agree with you, Josh, that Joe Flacco is a meme of a quarterback, and 20% said no. What do you have to say to those results, Josh?
Is he elite?
No.
There you go.
He's not even, I don't think he's even good, but that's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
All right. So now we'll go to Toby's poll here. And I think he wanted to get our opinions on it. I don't know if Josh saw it or not, but
yeah, Josh knows
it was
about
the
it.
question of who's going to be back in the NFL first, Johnny Manziel, Colin Kaepernick, or neither of them. And I've already said to Toby's poll that I said neither of them. Neither of them were going to ever make another shot in the NFL. Josh, what do you got to say about that poll?
Oh, that was probably the most creative poll I've seen in quite a while, because it makes you think. Because it goes like, it's neither of them. Then you see the AAF just went down, and you go, "Oh crap!
Yeah,
this
how
could
big
happen."
of a coincidence that is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's like in that part of the Endgame trailer that came out. He goes like, "You
Oh,
came
God.
back to me."
And I can't wait for that movie. I'm just gonna let everybody know
yeah,
I've
you know,
had sale tickets for that shit, so I'm going.
I would say that Johnny Manziel has a higher chance of coming back than Colin Kaepernick, because I think Colin Kaepernick just got tired of the NFL's like crap and essentially became like CM Punk to what he did in the WWE. He's not coming back.
Right.
So it's Johnny before anyone.
And then I'll ask Toby this one first. I did my poll. Indianapolis Colts draft class, the best draft class of all time. I personally believe so. 50% said yes and no, so it was split both ways. Toby, do you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. From where the Colts were 2 seasons ago compared to last season, of course, there is also Andrew Luck coming back. But I think that's not all of it. But how they just rebuilt that team with that one draft, that was a special draft for the Colts last season. And
very special.
I think I agree. It was probably the best draft for the Colts.
Josh, do you think it was the best of all time or close to it?
I'd say that it was probably the best of all time, because we paid attention to our needs and not our wants. Because remember, with Ryan Grigson, we got only offense, and our defense became decrepit. So once we got Ballard in, our defense got stronger, and it got more solidified because now we have a reliable middle linebacker.
Yeah. And let me just, I'll break it down for you. I believe it is, and I'll tell you why. First 2 picks of the whole draft, both of them became first-team All-Pros. Only the second time in NFL history that a pair of rookies won first-team All-Pro on the same team. That's only the second time it's ever happened. And then you have the next pick was Darius Leonard was the second pick. And then the third pick was Braden Smith. Instant starter right away. Cleared up that right tackle spot. He did a very good job. And then you had Tyquan Lewis. Started at one point during the season. He had some good times. You had Kamiko Turi, who was a starter at the beginning of the season, had some valuable moments. You had a couple of receivers in there that were injured throughout most of the offseason and the season, but were supposed to be big impact players right away, and they should be next year when they get healthy. Then you had Nyheim Hines, who asserted himself as a danger in the backfield when he was able to get in the open field after catching the ball. You had Jordan Wilkins that came in there and provided valuable minutes. I'm sorry, like the first 4 rounds of the whole draft that the Colts had were all instant starters or all instant valuable role players.
Remember, we also have Kane coming back.
Yeah, Kane was one of the receivers I mentioned. He was lighting it up in the offseason. Everyone said, this is a guy that you need to worry about, and then tore his ACL in the first preseason game. So I can't wait to see him get back. But man, that draft class was something special, dude. That was awesome. All right, so now we're going to move on to the moment you have all been waiting for. my mock draft 3.0. Yep, and Josh is going to
Josh is already leaving.
As you can tell, we all have a little comedy around here every now and again. All right, so I'm going to get started here. Don't even start with me, Josh. Don't do it.
I'm gonna get a picture of it. I'm gonna put it right here.
And then I'm gonna remind
people cardboard cutout.
I'm gonna remind people of this picture. Just that's been the story of Michigan football for the last 20 years. Josh, you're smart that you converted. I appreciate you. All right, so
just get to the draft. Just get to the mock draft.
We're gonna get to the draft. All right. With the first pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals will select Kyler Murray, quarterback out of Oklahoma. We all kind of agree with that already, that's what's probably going to go down. Number 2, the San Francisco 49ers select Nick Bosa, defensive end out of Ohio State. And number 3, the New York Jets select Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle from Alabama. I kind of agree with Toby that the Jets are going to look more to protecting Sam Darnold than they are on the defensive side right now. And with the 4th pick, the Oakland Raiders select Montez Sweat, defensive end out of Mississippi State. I think that they're looking more for a pass rusher than they are a linebacker, which is what Montez Sweat is. And with the 5th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Josh Allen, linebacker out of Kentucky. I think Josh Allen is what they're looking for, a mixture of a linebacker and defensive end hybrid. And with the 6th pick, the New York Giants select Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State. I think that they are going to ultimately get rid of Eli, even though they have not said that they will. With the 7th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Cody Ford, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. I think they want to protect Nick Foles' blind side and help provide some run support for the offense as well. With the 8th pick, the Detroit Lions select TJ Hawkinson, tight end out of Iowa. I think they're going to try their chances with another tight end. The Buffalo Bills select DK Metcalf, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Like I said, I know I had him in my overrated picks, but I think ultimately Buffalo needs a receiver, and I think he's emerged as the number 1 guy for it. And with the 10th pick, the Denver Broncos select Greedy Williams, defensive back out of LSU. All right, guys, my top 10. What do you guys think?
With the Metcalf one, I know we have it with the Bills. I think we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that he's like 98 or 99 going straight, that's just what Josh Allen needs.
That's very true. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that because people have been asking Pat Mahomes, like, between you or Josh Allen, who has the stronger arm? Who could throw a football longer? And they said that, like, they could legitimately both throw 80 yards. I would love to see that. I would love to see those two have a throwing competition.
Yeah, that's why Metcalf having that 98 speed going straight is just what Josh Allen needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely, yeah.
What do you got, Tilly?
I agree with your picks. I mean, there's not a lot that is different from my picks, but yeah, we wanted to do this before your mock draft actually, but I gotta go off topic a little bit again.
That's fine.
But I don't know how many of you or you two are watching Good Morning Football or listening to it, and they introduced a new segment this week where they basically talk about a draft scenario. And on Thursday, they had a little interesting one that made me wonder why this would even unfold. And it was if the Arizona Cardinals would draft Nick Bosa with the first overall pick, which would leave Kyler Murray still on the draft board. Would the 49ers accept a trade with the Oakland Raiders for the 4th overall pick and the 37th overall pick to trade up to the 2nd pick, which made me wonder, why would the Oakland Raiders even trade up to the number 2 pick? I mean, you have the New York Jets in front of you and the San Francisco 49ers. Both have 2 young quarterbacks that they got 2 years or 1 year ago, respectively. So why would the Raiders try to trade up to the 2nd position in the draft if they don't have to worry about the 2 teams ahead of them to get a quarterback that is still on the board and what they want. That
Right. Yeah.
Fix your stuff.
remember
You
NFL
wouldn't need.
Network.
Yeah, you wouldn't need a quarterback. The thing they need to worry about is a quarterback right now, and I think that they're not looking for a quarterback. They need defensive end. Now, I could obviously see the Raiders maybe doing that, moving up to get Nick Bosa if they truly believe that Nick Bosa is still going to be there and that, they really, really want Nick Bosa. But I don't know if they're going to trade a second round pick as well for Nick Bosa when they can get plenty of other options at defensive line.
I mean, I could see from what we've seen from the Raiders under John Gruden the last year, nobody knows what they are actually doing.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Nobody knows what
I could
the
see
hell
them
they're
going
doing.
for a quarterback. I'm just saying there is no need for them if the Cardinals are not picking Kyler Murray to trade up from the 4th spot, because every team ahead of them at the 2 and the 3rd, the 2nd and the 3rd spot, they already have their quarterback for the future. They won't pick Kyler Murray. Why would you trade
they
up
don't
for
need
that?
that. Yeah, they don't need that right now. Yeah.
So yeah,
all right.
Move on with your mock draft, Derek. Sorry.
All right, we'll go ahead. We'll keep moving here.
Comment.
All right, so with the 11th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Devin White, inside linebacker from LSU. They still need a linebacker. With the 12th pick, the Green Bay Packers select Rashawn Gary, defensive end out of Michigan. I think that they still need a bona fide pass rusher, and Rashawn Gary is that answer. With the 13th pick, Miami selects Clellan Ferrell, defensive end out of Clemson. And with the 14th pick, the Atlanta Falcons select Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle out of Clemson. I have the two defensive linemen from Clemson going back to back. With the 15th pick, the Washington Redskins select Marquise Brown, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. I think that they're still looking for an offensive threat, and I don't think they really think they can have their answer at quarterback this year. They may be waiting till next year or the year after to truly go for their newest edition of quarterbacks. And with the 16th pick, the Carolina Panthers select Andre Dillard. Again, he's one of the best pass rush or pass protecting linemen out there. I think that they truly need him. With the 17th pick, the New York Giants, which was the Cleveland pick before, will select Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston. I think Ed Oliver should be higher, but I think that ultimately this is where I think he'll end up going. And where did Josh go? Why is he leaving?
I have to put my phone on the charger.
Yeah, see, he's not prepared. People are not prepared. With the 18th pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Greg Little, offensive tackle out of Mississippi. They still need help on their offensive line. With the 19th pick, the Tennessee Titans select Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Unfortunately, I don't think he'll last that long for the Colts. And Josh just being a weirdo as he always is. And with the 20th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Devin Bush, inside linebacker from Michigan. Guys, my 10 to 20 or 11 to 20, what'd you think?
Overall, I agree with your picks. The only thing that I'm a bit worried about is the Washington pick with Marquise Brown.
Okay, I got you.
Because with the quarterbacks that they have right now, I want to see Case Keenum in that Redskins uniform. I can't really get a read off of him how he will perform there. I mean, he had a great year with the Vikings 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but for a young player like Marquise, he will, if Case Keenum is not performing, I think it will hurt him in the long run if he does not have that or any quarterback at all, basically, in his first season in the NFL. So I think it's not for the pick. It's just for the development of Marquise Brown.
Right. I got you. Josh, what you got?
Yeah, Toby mostly said it for me. It's just the same thing. But yeah, Devin White does seem like he would fit in the Bengals scheme.
Yeah, that's what we were all thinking. I think Toby and I have been consistent on that one pick
Yeah.
throughout all of our drafts. That's the one pick that has not changed at all.
I was more consistent on them getting Hawkinson or Fant.
Yeah, right.
That's
You were
true,
going
yeah.
for the other.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to finish this thing off. With the 21st pick, the Seattle Seahawks select A.J. Brown, wide receiver out of Mississippi. I think that they're looking for another hands-on player, and I think he could be that.
Yeah. You talk about underrated. I think that
Yeah.
he's going to be pretty underrated.
A.J. Brown has been a very underrated guy. With the 22nd pick, the Baltimore Ravens select N'Keal Harry, wide receiver out of State. Now, I thought this was a toss-up between Josh Jacobs and N'Keal Harry. I think they could go for either one of these. I think those are the two guys that ultimately will get picked. It's a matter of, do the Ravens want a running back more? Need another wide receiver more to help Lamar Jackson? We'll have to see how that goes. But with the 23rd pick, the Houston Texans select Mitch Hyatt, offensive tackle out of Clemson. I still think they need help on that offensive line. With the 24th pick, the Oakland Raiders select Mack Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. With the 25th pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Byron Murphy, defensive back out of Washington. I still think they need more depth at the cornerback spot, since that was a big question mark for them last year. Mm-hmm. With the 26th pick, the Indianapolis Colts select Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. His name has been continuing to pop up on mock draft boards all over in the first round, specifically for the Colts, fitting the system the way they want, given the fact that he's slightly undersized, but in mechanics and pure athletic ability, he brings what they need. And with the 27th pick, the Oakland Raiders select Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa. I think that Noah Fant is the answer to them losing Jared Cook, and I think they honestly will go for that.
That's a fantastic pick.
Funny. Like you didn't do that 2 weeks ago. Exactly. But anyway, the Los Angeles Chargers with the 28th pick will select DeAndre Walker, a linebacker from Georgia. And with the 29th pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select DeAndre Baker, cornerback from Georgia. With the 30th pick, the Green Bay Packers select Landis Durham, linebacker from Texas A&M. With the 31st pick, the Rams select Anfernee Jennings, linebacker out of Alabama. Want to make sure I got that spelled right. And with the 32nd pick, the New England Patriots select Jonathan Abraham, a safety from Mississippi State, who has kind of been making his way into the first round on a lot of draft boards lately. All right, guys, what do you think of the last of that?
I think.
What just
what
happened?
Was that?
Okay, are we still recording?
Yeah.
Okay, folks, we apologize for that. That was one of the technical issues that we said we've been having lately.
It cut me off at the best time.
Discord just decided to completely cut all of us out of the group chat. We apologize. Anyway, Josh was just about to say something about my 21st to 32nd picks. What were you going to say, Josh?
I was going to say everything was fine, but I think that the Ravens they should go for Josh Jacobs, not because of Lamar Jackson, but because Mark Ingram thrives better with another wide receiver or another running back sharing the load. That's why I would go Josh.
Yeah, that could be something there. Yep. Toby?
Actually, I don't think I think Ingram needs another running back, but I think that they already have that in Edwards, I believe it is, Gus Edwards. In Baltimore, Edwards or Edmonds. I just can't think of the exact name right now. But otherwise I agree with your picks, and yeah. Also for Josh Jacobs, I just think it's a little bit too similar of a player to Mark Ingram that he can benefit from that. He kind of needs more of a player like Alvin Kamara that is more pass catching, not that down the middle run guy.
Yeah, I got you.
Otherwise, yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it. All right, so that's gonna do it all for us. Thank goodness that
Wait,
Hold on, Josh.
What,
There's
Josh, one more thing.
remember how I did the radio show? You're supposed to bring that up.
Oh,
Oh
yes,
yeah, we
yes.
have one more topic. Josh just coming from BGSC radio show, Falcon Radio. We put it out on our Twitter. How was it, Josh?
It was very interesting because I that whole time, I was like, I cannot swear. I cannot swear on this one.
Now, for anyone that watches our podcast, we do our best to not swear. Like we usually don't do that, but like occasionally you'll hear a word out of us, especially recently, and a few times we'll let one slip, but we do our best to make sure that we keep that out of here. But you're right that if Josh decided to drop one just one time, then it would not have looked very good for his friend who is the host of that. So
because his name is also Josh, and his radio show is Salty Sports Talk because his last name is Saltzman. He's a pretty cool guy. So he's a Cleveland.
And I told Josh that he needs to get me on his radio show in a couple weeks, which I think we'll think about doing.
And actually, Derek and I, we of course listened to it, and afterwards we agreed that our Josh did a better job than the actual host
Josh.
Of
we
the
thought
radio
you
show.
did a much better job.
He actually sounded more like a veteran on the show than he did. And Josh, you know what's coming right now.
Yeah, I know.
The Twitter handle is right down in the bottom right corner on the screen right here. Get it right the next time.
All right, I will. I'm sorry. But when
he got it wrong by one thing, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, the T3DF _ NFL.
Yeah. If you saw me on that video, you'd see me close my eyes and just picture it in my head, and it just came out wrong.
Oh man, we forgive him even though he's intellectually challenged at times.
And you actually noticed it if you're listening to the show. He actually after he said it, he said, "Oh my God, the two are gonna grill me on the podcast for that one."
They were. Toby went in the Snapchat group and is like, "Let the grilling begin." We love you, Josh. It's okay.
Yeah, we love you, and not only for that beauty right here.
Screw the Tampa 2. I hate it.
We're posters coming soon, folks. You can buy them now.
Yeah, T-shirts is already available in shops.
There you go. T-shirts already available at spreadshirt.com. So be sure to check it out. Anyways, that's it for us, guys. We appreciate it. Sorry about the little bit of a mishap. Discord decided to screw all of us by knocking us out of the call, but we bounced back. We made it work. Thank goodness we didn't have any problems the rest of the podcast. So thank you guys for doing this with me. It was a lot of fun. And be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us all on Twitter and on YouTube.
What is that Twitter handle, Derek? What's the Twitter handle?
T3DS _ NFL. I've been saying it I've been working on our Twitter the past month. I would probably know it by now. Until next time, guys. Peace.
See ya.
Later.